Hi, Leon. Welcome
Hi,
here.
Josh. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for being here and being speaking at our conference at the ABH Hypnosis Conference this year.
I'm
So,
so excited. It is my first time.
yeah, awesome. And we're excited to have you. So, just let us know a little bit about yourself, like who you are, what you do.
Yeah, my name is Leon. I'm the founder of Connective Labs. I'm an entrepreneur. I actually completed my studies in the US, and after which I started my first startup in Silicon Valley for 2 years. And during that time, our space actually is in mental health for teenagers. But throughout that time, being very close proximity to the likes of AI, like in OpenAI's office and the likes, we slowly learned about the emerging potential of how AI would be able to transform the world. And so that was early when ChatGPT arose in late 2022. And so since then, I figured like, where would I want my next steps to be? And so I decided eventually to return to Singapore, where my hometown is. I'm Singaporean, and then it's always nice to come back home with the goal of trying to connect that high-tech Silicon Valley AI technologies with the pragmatic operations of business owners, responsible business owners who are really trying to make a living and trying to adopt AI into their workflows and their business operations, but are sort of left behind from the bubble that is Silicon Valley. Right. And so that's primarily why I decided to come back with the mission to really bridge that gap. And so Connective Labs was born in late of 2024 with the goal of trying to build custom AI solutions for operations in back office operations, data entry work, a lot of very manual, boring tasks. And also, more importantly, in 2026, we realized that figuring out where is the line between a task that a human should still be doing, right? Those are very important questions that I'm happy to share more about today. Because if you automate most of the things, sometimes you cross into where you over automated the tasks that ought to have human judgment, human accountability to still make that call on whether or not that task should be done in a certain way. And so that's where we find a lot of meaning in the work that we're doing, and that drives us every day forward in Connective Labs.
Yeah, great. And absolutely, what an amazing introduction, for
Thank you.
yourself. So, on that, this what does a human do? What can AI do? What should AI do? What shouldn't it
Mhm.
do? You mentioned you can talk to us a bit more about that. I think let's just dive straight into that and tell
Good
us a
thing.
bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you know, the AI space is evolving so quickly, right? And so, whatever you might have thought that an AI could have done in the past may have changed in the matter of months as well, right? In late 2022, we're just talking about an AI who could answer your questions, right? But in 2025, you're talking more about an AI who could start to think in more reasoned depth and can absorb more knowledge. But in 2026, you're starting to see AI who's able to do things on your behalf, right? So they might be able to send emails on your behalf, be able to send receipts and invoices and process payments on your behalf. And so what we're trying to explore here really isn't about just a static way of thinking about AI, but how should humans choose to use AI and how should humans think about AI, right? And so as we talk to our clients, almost all of our clients are in the legacy business, right? Very, very few in the high tech business because they probably already know what the emerging capabilities look like. But to guide very legacy companies who may be at the stage of trying to digitize their current workflows. And so the two outcomes that we like to sort of inculcate with our clients to help the team move forward in an AI forward world. The first one really is in identifying what kind of processes are worthwhile to automate to begin with, such that you're able to derive that organizational outcomes, right? So I'll go into that a little bit deeper in a bit as well. The second outcome is really in being able to use the AI on a day-to-day basis, having the capability of evaluating its outcomes right? Having the capability to assess the outputs of that AI model, right? Be able to assess if the things that they're doing is correct, if it is well defined, if it's well judged, and also that it is an outcome that you think will be passable from a human judgment standpoint. Right, so you don't want the AI to run rogue in the work that you're doing because it might result in risk in your business as well. Right, so those are the types of we call it AI governance skill sets that is really important for both stakeholders in management as well as for frontline staff to know how to better tame this beast that is AI, right?
Mm.
And also on the first point on figuring out where an organization should adopt AI in their workflow, right? It's really about being able to tie it to ROIs in your business, to tie it to bottlenecks in that's stopping your company from growing in revenue, in size, right? And being able to unlock those throughputs, right? Those are the things that we care about. And so, equipping the team, be it a frontline member, a frontline staff, or up to the management level to know how to handle these things will be a much more useful skill set in whatever AI is going to become, right? Even if AI grows in its capabilities in the future, we don't know what that looks like, but having that judgment call to know this is what we want to do, this is what we don't want to do is equally important as well.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, a couple of things that come to mind, I guess, when I'm
Yeah,
talking to practitioners and people within our community, even trainers, is, I guess this fear of AI replacing human roles. And I don't know that it's exactly that in our community. I mean, that's the broader umbrella. I think that it could be, people aren't going to have the connection with AI. It's going to lose connection. We're going to lose trust. All of
yeah,
this stuff that coaches work really hard with their audience, with their clients and their students to build
yes,
feel
yeah,
like that can be quickly sort of torn down by utilizing AI. And I
mm,
understand that that might be, perhaps being utilized in the wrong way, but talk to us a bit about, I guess, those fears and how to overcome those fears around, particularly that trust and connection being
yeah.
taken away with the people that they work with.
Yeah, for sure. That is a really common problem in any emerging industry, right? The fear that what is it actually going to disrupt, right? And in AI specifically, as it is a very services oriented, a very personal type of industries, right? The fear is that there are usually two fears here. One of the fear is how would we build trust with customers from an AI perspective, and the other is on the team members who are in the company itself, whether or not their job roles will be affected by the use of AI, right? So I think there are two pieces here that we really want to address. The first one really is on the job piece, right? Certainly that there's a lot of talk about retrenchment from AI because your job is made redundant. We actually don't see that in our day-to-day work. For the most parts, the most logical outcome, and it is something that we're seeing more often, is that if you're able to cut out half the work that a human employee is currently doing, and the business owner usually would rather do double the business than to cut out half the staff, right? And that's the logical outcome. No business owner would say, I want to keep my business at the exact same size with half the team. When I have a good relationship with my team, I have, I have all these things going for me. Why would I choose not to grow, right? So for every AI implementation that we do for our clients, the thing that we see more often than not is a desire to grow, right, with the same or just slightly more headcount, right? Rather than a widespread like it doesn't really come from a, I want to get rid of people type of mindset. So I think that should also assuage a lot of the fears on retrenchment. Yes, your job will change, right? Your job might actually get easier on a day-to-day perspective, but if you're able to drive new revenue for the business, chances are the owners of the business would want to keep that going because they're able to do more with the same amount of resources in the company, right? So that I think should be a rather comforting sign to most team members who are actually working on it. And on the flip side, it's really on adopting AI on the right surface areas, right? And I would say that certainly, while creative works like music, like AI avatars, like customer-facing chatbots, they're always at risk because of that uncanny valley perspective, right? Whereby you're talking to this AI chatbot and you're not really sure what is happening underneath it. Connective Labs doesn't really believe that that is ready for widespread deployment yet. Right. We don't know if it will ever be, because there are just certain job functions and job roles that require that human touch. Right. And it's not just because of the realism of what you see. Right. It's a lot of layers underneath it in terms of trust, in terms of empathy, in terms of relationships. Right. Those things cannot be offloaded to software, right? That can almost certainly never be offloaded to software, because that is what makes humans humans. Right. And so what we do care more about in AI implementation really is identifying the boring tasks, right? The boring work, busy work, like filling out forms, like submitting approvals and trying to get paperwork pushed through certain portals and getting it through certain systems, ensuring that your data is captured correctly. Those things are not necessarily the most human things, but humans have been tasked to do those things, right? So those are the areas that we think that AI would be able to help the most, thereby allowing, sort of unlocking the human aspects to be maximized, right? In a day-to-day work, a typical human employee might be doing roughly 60% of human work and 40% admin work, right? It's that 40% admin work that we really think AI would be able to drive the most productivity for businesses. And I'm sure it trickles all the way up to stakeholders in senior management as well. They definitely can see it, because if you're in a services industry and your clients don't trust the practitioners that are serving them, then it will make a real business impact dent to their end of year reports. And it's pretty obvious how that looks like. So we're not really fearful of that, right? But it's nice to at least address how we think about things from a rational standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. And in regard to, thinking about, how we as the human think about AI, you often
Yeah.
talk about, the human problem behind AI. So
Mm.
what have you discovered in why people struggle to adopt, new technology or utilize AI?
Yeah, for sure. I think so we've been through many AI implementation cycles now, right? And the one thing that we find as a common denominator across many of them is that no one really has a good structure on how to guide an organization to move together.
Mm.
Right. I think together as an organization is very different from an individual learning how to use AI. Right. And that's what we're seeing in the market right now. Certainly, the vast majority of enterprise implementations of AI have failed for good reason, because they're usually sending their team, their hundreds of employees, to ChatGPT lessons, prompting lessons, and the likes, equipping them with key AI skills, but not teaching them how they should work in an organization. Right.
Mm.
And what would end up happening is these team members, they return from their training courses, they start using ChatGPT, and they generate 20, 30 reports using AI, and they have no idea how to control this monster that is AI. And they send out many pieces of work that look like work, but really underneath it, it's just an AI generated work. And it makes it very hard for an organization to move forward together, right? And I think businesses are starting to see, like, they're starting to bump into a wall here, because they're like, I've already sent my team to do training in AI, but how come nothing's changed on my business thus far, right? And so our unlocking move really is to equip them with an understanding of how to think about AI as you work in an organization, rather than how do you just get AI skills, right? Which is great for personal growth. But if you want to work in a team, right, knowing where your judgment ends and where the AI starts to enhance your work so that your manager, your colleagues are able to capture that as well, right, is the key unlocking move for a lot of enterprise adoption of AI as well, right? So that's usually the piece that we're seeing. I think we're actually very, very pleased that since I returned to Singapore and talking to folks around small business owners generally, that actually most small business owners want to bring their team forward together rather than just leave them behind. And so a lot of conversations have been focused on how can we hold the right kinds of curriculum and workshops such that the team that's maybe not exposed to AI at all, as well as the individuals who are superhumans on ChatGPT, are able to work together in the same company culture so that the team can move forward together. So
Mm.
work in AI, I think is really the big piece that we're very prioritizing on.
Yeah, sure. I can completely understand that, from an organization's sort of point of view too, in that, you send people off for training and these people come back and they've got these, skills, but I guess if there is no, company kind of authorization saying, policy or operating procedure or anything that kind of says, yes, we approve of the use of AI on these platforms in this way, then, I guess there would also be a bit of fear from the employee of like,
Yeah,
exactly where does the ability to use these skills at work stop and end?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay. So, speaking to, I guess, our audience now I know, you're not in the NLP and hypnotherapy world. You're
I'm
very
new
much
to it. Yes.
in AI, but you are aware, yes. So, for coaches and our trainers out there who want to start incorporating more AI into, what they do to be able to assist them really, I guess, with those admin and more administrative sort of tasks that really we don't want to be spending our time doing because we want to create transformation with clients or students
Yeah.
in front of us. What would be your advice, I guess, on how to kind of step into that? I think a lot of the beliefs that I hear are like, well, I don't have the time, like I'm very busy already.
Mhm.
It's like that catch 22, right? How do I make the
Yes.
time to learn this? And where do I know, how do I know where to start? So I'm not just,
Mhm.
doubling in all these ideas that don't actually translate to something that I can use and saves me time and potentially money.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the abundance of news is scaring most business owners and coaches and practitioners that there's like so many things going on, right? So I think firstly, it's about going back to what your practice looks like first, right? And what your practice needs. So a simple way that we like to call it is we have this AI worker framework where you should think about implementing automations from the perspective of hiring a new intern, right?
Mhm.
It makes it a lot easier to digest it that way. Where if you're putting a job ad on LinkedIn, for example, and you're asking, hey, I need this person to help me with these tasks, and how do those tasks look like, right? You would break it down into, I would need you every morning to log into my email. I need you to go into this stage, to this page and look at this information. I need you to reply to messages that come in this way, right? Based on some past emails that I've done before, right? Those are the ways that we like to start introducing the concept of automation before thinking it like it's some fancy AI technology thing. Just think about it like you're hiring a new intern. How would you coach that intern? And I'm sure the coaches in the business would have a very good idea of how to get that done as well, right? To do it for AI is exactly the same,
Mhm.
right? Because figuring out which jobs need to be done, right, is the more important step than actually the technicals behind it, right? After you've broken down the problem to say, hey, I need you every morning to reach out to these set of customers so that they're reminded of these things, right? Then, you can shop that piece to any AI vendor on the market. You might be able to test it against products on the market. And if, you don't have the time to do so, you can always come back to Connective Labs. That's why we exist. We spoke with so many business owners that are just so strapped for time, and the volume of news that's out there is just so tremendous that they just really want something that is simple, that's affordable, that works for them, right? And someone to actually get it done for them, right? And so that's what Connective Labs is. We have a client facing that's all humans, right? Like, so we're here talking to our clients, we're hand-holding them through this process. There's really no AI between Connective's team and the likes. So we think that's the kind of connection that needs to take place, even if it is with another vendor. The vendor should not just be giving you a blank slate with an AI bot that's helping you do this transformation. You do need someone who understands what's going on in your business, right? Someone who can guide you through that technical transformation, and to do it small to start, right? To de-risk it, right? With low cost, low consequence tasks to start with, so that you get a sense of how AI would work in your workflows today, right? And then down the line, you might be able to expand more, right? So low cost, low sort of time commitment as well. So you want quick turnover. And on a job that isn't catastrophic if it does go wrong, right? So that you can at least test and see how it feels. So that's my recommendation for almost every business owner that's really trying to adopt AI as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I just had a thought pop into my mind when you said that. I was like, oh, it's building our trust in the AI, right? Like we
Yes.
talk about
Yeah.
the AI building trust for our company, but yeah, starting small to build our
It is.
trust in, those things that we're building. And absolutely, if you can get the assistants to do it in the right way, upfront rather than spend a lot
Yeah.
of time, dabbling yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
thanks.
Exactly. Trust is key here. Yes.
Yes. Trust is key both ways. All right. So, looking ahead, how do you see AI transforming over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, if I knew, I would be an oracle already. So I don't profess that I know exactly where AI is going. I do have a couple guesses, and I think that the technology is going to accelerate for sure, right? So the capabilities are going to improve, but it does not mean that jobs will suddenly be gone, right? I don't think that humans will just suddenly be displaced and be jobless, like some fear-mongering tech people might profess. I don't think that at all, right? I think that there is a lot of work that needs to be done to bridge that gap, socially, culturally, even on a regulatory basis. There's a legal basis, and at the end of the day, do clients really care about do they how do I say it? Are they really concerned about seeing the most the best possible AI model in their day-to-day work, or do they want that human touch? Right? I don't think that the human touch necessarily just gets displaced just because you have this tremendous intelligence but looks raw and looks fake. That is in AI, right? Certainly, we know that calculators can count math faster than humans do. It does not mean that your accountant is just now a calculator, right? Like, it doesn't work that way. There's so many more things that need to take place in there, right? And so I have absolute faith that humans in the next 5 to 10 years will absolutely still be the core, if not more important, in the future, because there are things that AI will not be able to do, and whatever humans are able to do gets highlighted, gets emphasized way more than it is in today's society. Today, a lot of humans are still doing admin work. What if we could take those out? Then you're entirely focused on a human's value to this world, in that space of that human touch, that trust, that accountability piece, judgment calls, and taste. Those things will always be there. And I think that will only get enhanced with the help of AI and not against it. So that's my read on where AI is going in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. All right. And thanks so much, Leon, for talking with us today and giving us some more insight. And, Leon is obviously going to be talking at our conference in September. So come along to his session. And I think he's got some real takeaways for you to, walk away with something practical there. So thanks, Leon, and we will see you at the conference.
Thanks so much, Tara. Looking forward to it.